We're going to discuss, I hope we can make a little clarification, hope we can, and about providence and miracles and all that kind of thing. And we're going to meet today. We're also going to meet Wednesday night. I found out that. So we'll have a couple of times to look at this. And I did understand that even Wednesday night, I know some of you live a long way away, it should be online too. So you can tie all of this in. Basically, and hopefully you've studied this and read this, and it's on the should be the front and back. I don't like to do front and back, and we made some copies in there. I hit 50 of them, and then I found out that it did front and back. I don't like that, but I wasn't going to redo it. So, providence of God. Providence of God. We're going to hit a couple of highlights here. Be turning to Isaiah chapter 38. It's not in your notes. You want to put. I've got a lot of scriptures that you want to put in your notes, but Isaiah 38 is one of them, and we're going to kind of notice do a little comparing and contrasting. But there are people who view God created the world. It's called deism. They have no problem with that. God created it. He set up certain laws. The laws of gravity and all the stuff, all the laws, and they freely admit God did that. And then God rested, and He still rested. There are people who believe that. There are people who believe that everything is a miracle. I mean, really. And we use that, we use it sometimes with a little bit of poetic license. I get that. But, someone recovers from an illness, it was a miracle. Someone finds a parking place on a crowded street. A miracle. We go to a parking lot and it's 115 degrees out there and there's a parking space under a tree. That really is a miracle. But it's a miracle. Everything is a miracle. A lot of people think, or I'm being a little facetious, but not too much. Now, there's no question that the Lord has done miracles, and many of them. No question. We're going to look at one here in a minute. What does John 20, verses 30 and 31 say? You can paraphrase if you like. John 20, verses 30 and 31. And many other signs did Jesus in the presence of His disciples that are not written in this book. But these are written, why? That you may believe. Okay, so in the first century, there was not a written down Bible yet. At the beginning of the second century, there was. And God said that, and Jesus said that, a lot of these miracles that I did, it was because I'm a good God. And people who were blind, He couldn't see, and all these things, issues of blood, He did it because He had compassion on people. But He also did it that you would believe what He said. Now, if a person raises the dead and he's got something else to say to me, oh, you got my attention on that, sir. And that was so. And did the apostles have the ability to do miracles? Oh, yes. Did they raise the dead? They absolutely did. They did all of that. The Bible wasn't completed yet. So if they're doing all of these things and you're listening, you're not sure about all this Christianity stuff, but these guys are doing the same miracles or similar miracles that Jesus did, I believe you got my attention too. But you also remember that in Acts chapter 8, I don't think I have that in your notes, but Acts 8, when they found out that the Samaritans had accepted Christianity, if the apostles had the ability to pass on the ability to do miracles, why did they need the apostles to come to Samaria? They didn't. The answer is they didn't. So they came down and they laid their hands on people. Because this was not revealed yet. It's a new church, new Christians going to need some help. So it took the apostles to do that. What happened when the last apostle died? The ability to pass on all of those gifts died with the last apostle. Now you can go to 1 Corinthians 12, 13, and 14, particularly 13. How long does it last? And 1 Corinthians 13 will tell you all that. Till that which is perfect is come. What does James call in James 1 about the law of liberty? Whoever looks into the perfect law of liberty. So it has come. It's right here. There's no more adding to it, and there's certainly there's no taking from it. So we have to be careful how we use the word miracle, but there is no question that God had the power then, He has the power now to do anything He wants to do, like we heard in our lesson this morning. Why? Because He's sovereign. He reports to nobody. What He wants to do, He does, and we say, yes, sir. That's okay with me.
Where does it say the perfect law of liberty is?
James 1:27. Then there's what I think is the biblical view, but all this is not, I call it providential care or providence if you just want to shorten it up. And you notice how I've got that written here well, let's just look at point number 2. Well, let me go back up to C of 1. The biblical view recognizes that God providentially operates in the world today by what? Supernatural law? Natural law. I had a person tell me, it's been within the last year, that said, oh, you're the folks that believe that God doesn't perform miracles. Or that God only, that God doesn't perform miracles. And I said, well, no, He performs miracles. Are you saying that God only works when He can perform miracles? Oh, well, I don't have to answer that. God set things in motion, but He cares for His world, and He cares for you and me. And He, the Latin word means foresight. Does God have foresight? Yes. So providence concerns God's, now notice, I got to highlight even in my notes, that providence concerns God's support, His care, and His supervision of all things, of all creation. And it's the opposite of fate, of chance, and of luck. I don't even like the word luck. Sometimes it'll slip out. I don't believe in luck. I don't. Now, time and chance happens to all. The Bible says that. I'll give you a real quick one. This happened in June. What are we, in July? So it's only a month ago. A little over. We support a preacher in Ohio. His name's Jimmy Lee. Around the Dayton, Ohio area. And they had a bunch of tornadoes came through last month. Killed several. And Jimmy wrote in one of his blogs that there was this lady, an older sister, who heard the tornado coming. And she went to her bedroom and was praying. Please spare me from this tornado. The tornado hit her house wide open. Destroyed it all except the bedroom. Now you figure that out. You let me know. Did God hear her prayer? Did He use natural means to save that woman? I believe that. Was it a miracle? I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, by answering her prayers doesn't make it a miracle.
That's right. That's a good point in the book of James. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous, I'll use man, but person. Now, if God is here, then why do we pray? It makes no difference. Obviously, that's not true. Does He have to perform a miracle every time we ask Him to heal somebody or to please spare my life from this tornado?
just quit praying then if you're not.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Okay.
So, it's not fate, it's not chance, it's not luck, and sometimes Christians die. A lot of times Christians die. It was according to His will. Remember He said, you pray according to my will. Well, it was according to His will that day in June that tornado spared that old sister. And it demolished everything down to the foundation. But yet her bedroom was still had a roof over it. Hey, you let me know when you figure it out, you know, when you explain that. But I know that's providence. God, what's the root word of providence? Provide. God provides. If it's according to His plan and His will. Now, I want you to turn, it's not in, or be sure and write this down in your notes. Isaiah 38. And I'm going to take just a little detour. I've been thinking about this for 2 or 3 days. I'm going to do it. Hezekiah was the king. Hezekiah, good king or bad king? He was one of the good kings. And God told him, he was sick. God said to Isaiah, you go to him, tell him, get your house in order. We appreciate that God give us time to do that. Get your house in order, getting ready to die. This is a good man, a good king who did a lot of good in the kingdom. He's going to die. Hezekiah immediately was weeping and crying and begging and praying that God spare him or give him some more time. Isaiah did not get through the palace. God came to Isaiah and said, go back and tell Isaiah I heard your prayer. And I'm going to give you 15 more years. Now notice in Isaiah 38 and verse 21. Now Isaiah had said, let them take a lump of figs and apply it as a poultice on the boil, and he shall recover. So evidently, Hezekiah must have had some sort of a pretty serious infection. What do they call it? Sepsis or something like that, where your body just becomes poisoned. This boil was so bad. Now, could God have said to Isaiah, heal him, you don't have to do anything, and you heal him? He could have. Did God perform a miracle right then? Or did He providentially heal Hezekiah? If it was a miracle, why did He have to take a lump of figs and make a poultice and apply it to that boil, and he was cured in a few days or a week or whatever it took? Doesn't say that. That wasn't a miracle. Let me show you a miracle. Chapter 38. Isaiah says, or Hezekiah said, evidently he was thinking it at least, and God said, I'm going to show you something that what I'm telling you is the truth. Look in verse, let's go to verse 5. I have heard your prayer. I have seen your tears. Surely I will add to you 15 years. Does God see our tears when we cry? He does. And look at verse 7. And this is the sign. What I'm telling you is the truth. Behold, I will bring the shadow of the sundial. The sun had evidently gone down. And you know, maybe you got a sundial in your yard, you know, those little ornamental things. He said, I'm going to bring the sundial back 10 degrees. Providential care or a miracle. What does the law of physics and the law of astronomy and the law of whatever say? You don't do that. You cannot do that. You can't. God did. He said, what I'm telling you is I'm going to perform a miracle so you'll get it. So do you see the difference in the same chapter? One's a miracle and one's God's providential care for listening to His servants pray to Him. Now, a lot in the world today would say he was healed and that was a miracle. Well, God certainly could have healed him with a miracle. He could have. That's child's play for him to heal up a boil. Kidding? But he said, he's going to live, heard your prayers, saw your tears. Now this is what I want you to do. Now, what if he had not taken a lump of figs and applied it as a poultice on that boil? What would have happened to Hezekiah? He's dead. Just that simple. Margie?
He had to obey something seemingly
Yes.
foolish,
Yeah.
like we do.
Yep. Margie?
When my mom broke her second hip when she was 99, the doctor said, we cannot do surgery. She has a low blood count, she has a fever, we're just going to send her home. And I said, she's got it broken, oh, her hip will heal. I said, but she's 99, her hip's not going to heal. You know, I mean, what can I do? So I know that the church here prayed for her. I prayed for her. The next day, after they gave her antibiotics and blood, two pints of blood, they performed the surgery. She came home and she could walk a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and I truly believe that that was God's providential care.
Yeah. I think that's right. And we got a call one Sunday afternoon, maybe 5 years ago, the elders, and said that John Revis has had a massive stroke and he's not going to live. And he's in the hospital. And the doctor said, no hope. No hope. It's too far gone. There's a massive stroke. So the elders went back there and they said, would you pray for John? We did. I saw John.
Yes.
There you go. But when he recovered, it surprised me. Isn't that shameful? I was surprised that a man who the doctors had given up on said he's dead. He's not coming to again. He's in a deep coma. His stroke has just killed him. And the elders, we held hands and prayed for him.
Glory to God.
I don't know.
But you didn't know whether God was going to say yes or
No,
no.
we didn't. We didn't.
No.
But sometimes we act like we're surprised when he answers the prayers. And that's bad.
When you see a miracle, it happens instantaneously. When you see providential care, it happens over time.
Yeah.
There is not one single miracle in the Bible that took over an instant of time.
That's right. That's right. And John had to go through months of therapy, how to speak again, how to think again, how to read again. But God answered the prayer that day. Now, you know, providence. Doctors are very smart people, most of them. You think that's providential? That God lets us, doctors understand our bodies, and as smart as people like that can be, absolutely, providential care.
How did they get that smart?
How did they get that
Took a
smart?
long bunch of time.
It did. It did. But he just didn't wind us up like little ducks, and we just go walking down until finally we just wind down.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I'm just kind of confused, like the boil thing,
Uh-huh.
thing on it, and he was healed, and that wasn't the stereotypical way they killed those. Seems pretty miraculous to me. And then like Jesus put mud on the eyes, like why didn't he just say, okay, you're healed?
Yeah.
Put mud on the eyes of the blind guy to make him.
No, that's
And
good. That's a
then
good point.
Also,
I'll
like
answer.
when he dipped in the Jordan River, he had to dip like multiple times, so it wasn't instantaneous. He had to go down, yeah, like multiple times, so that's a miracle.
It actually was
So
instantaneous.
can there be like providential miracles, like providential?
A blend. That's above my pay grade. But I do know what you're saying. But Don is right that there was no recuperative period for the ophthalmologist who healed the blind man, Jesus. It is instantaneous. Now, the thing about a miracle too, a miracle will take natural laws and override them, just like he did with the sundial. But it was still, now there are times when Jesus would actually, the woman with the issue of blood, he's walking and there's 1,000 of people around him. He said, "Who touched me?" And remember that story? And the minute she touched him, like the issue of her blood was dried up, and she spent her whole livelihood on trying to get healed, and she was basically broke from all the doctors and the charlatans.
I want to give God the glory for His providential care.
Yes.
This is the instance that I would like to take a minute to relate to you. I had severe stomach pains in the up here in the stomach during the night, all night long. So I decided, couldn't get into the doctor, I'll go to the emergency room. What I learned was not anything to do with the stomach pains. It had to do with getting a CAT scan and telling me that I had cancer in my right kidney. God caused me to go there to get the kind of technician knowledge that I needed not to die.
Yep. And there's sometimes God answers the prayer, no. And you die.
Yeah.
Does He have the right to do that?
You bet.
We just heard that this morning for those that were here for the first lesson.
I was thinking that when you said you went and prayed with John, you came and prayed for Rex, but it was God's
we
will.
did.
But he said no.
We did. He did. He was ready for Rex at that time. And, we don't know all that stuff. Now, I don't want to get into a bunch of stories, but I appreciate them though, because we're going to run out. Don, real quick.
The one thing about these miracles that you read about in the scripture, quite often there is a demand for obedience that is coupled to that.
Yes.
When God fed Israel in the wilderness with manna, He didn't just give it to them. He gave them a set of instructions to use with that. And He told Moses, I did this so that I would test them to find out if they would obey me. Naaman the leper was the same thing. He didn't believe that dipping in that river would do anything. But he obeyed. If he'd stopped on the sixth one, nothing would have happened. But he obeyed all of the instructions, and on the seventh, it happened.
And Allison, you're right, I get Allison's point. But a lot of God's things are what I call if-then statements. If-then statements.
Yeah.
If you do this, then I'm going to do this. If you don't do it, not going to happen.
Right.
If Naaman, now we know cleansing in the water, 7 times, 100 times, whatever, does not heal leprosy. Leprosy is unhealable today. So we know it was a miracle. Because you don't heal leprosy, period. And we know that dipping in the water 7 times does not heal leprosy. What did it? His obedience. So He expects us, if He says, if I want you to do this, then we have to do it.
That's what I was going to say, it takes faith and obedience, so He just beat me to it.
Okay, does somebody else have one?
I did, but I'm over it.
Okay. Okay, hurt.
So,
No, I'm sorry.
You're still looking at me. So.
So most of the miracles that are done in the Bible are done to prove a point. They're done to actually prove that God is with this person, God is behind this person, so you should listen to, like they call it.
We did that before you came in.
Okay.
We said that before you got here.
Okay. But most of the time, providence is one of the main differences. Miracles are undeniable. Providence is deniable. Like an atheist can look at something that happens providentially and say, oh, well, that can happen. Like, take John, for example. Oh, they said that John didn't have a chance. Well, doctors are wrong sometimes, and that can happen. An atheist can look at that and say that has nothing to do with God, whereas a Christian would say God definitely had a hand in that.
That's true. That's true. That's a valid point. Look at 1 John 5 and verse 14 and 15. 1 John 5. Now here's the caveat. John says this. Now this is the confidence that we have in Him. That if we ask anything according to His will, He hears us. What's the caveat? According to His will. And if we know that He hears us, and to Randy's point, it's a valid point, He hears us, Christians know that He hears our prayers. That whatever we ask, He hears that. We know that we have the petitions that we have asked of Him. He says, I'm going to give you, God's a good God. He's a gracious God. I'm going to give you what you need and what you want, if it's according to my will. Sometimes it's not according to His will, and when we start whittling on that end of the stick, we're going to get stuck by it. Lisa.
Well, and I think if you look at the goal is in our life, is to extend our life, then you can be disappointed in sometimes God's providence and care. But if we look at our goal of going to heaven, God, that's the miracle. That's where we're supposed to be. As hard as it is, especially with some untimely seasons of death, that's where we're heading. That's where we're going. And this providential care, and that woman who was in her house, and that's wonderful. But
Right.
had God said no,
That's
He's
right.
still in control. He's still created heaven and earth. And I think part of the reason God doesn't do miracles is because you get even people who follow Jesus, they were following Him for the food. They were following Him for
That's right.
those things. They weren't following Him for heaven. Or for,
No, that's exactly right. And we lose track sometimes
I
about,
lose track.
we all do, we have. What's this all about? Is our goal to have another 15 years on the earth? Is that our goal? Well, if we do, thank you. But we just going to get home quicker. And really, isn't that the bottom line of everything? That why we're here is just to hold on for dear life. And well, we want that, but it's to go and to be with the Lord. And were we successful in life if that happens?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Go back and
Absolutely.
read Psalm
That's a
90
wonderful
every
point.
day.
Psalm
Man's-
what?
Psalm 90.
90.
Man's days will be 70 years, and if perchance. You know, if you ever seen them if perchance years.
Here you are. You are.
That's the case I've been going a long time.
Right. Now, if you violate God's laws that He put in motion, what's going to happen to you? Now you say, I trust God, I'm going to jump off the Grand Canyon. Well, He put a law into place that says it's called gravity. He's not going to violate the gravity, neither you. It's not going to happen. Remember this when Joshua, Joshua was going to war. He was killing everybody like God told him to do. Remember that? And the sun was going down. He said, I'm not going to have time to finish this job. And he said to the sun, be still. And God heard that. In fact, the Bible goes on to say that's the only time that's ever recorded, or not recorded, where it said God listened to a man. Was that a miracle for Joshua, who was doing God's will, to say, son, stop, I've got more to take care of here before it gets dark? Yes. But I just find it so interesting that I've been studying, reading for 2 weeks on this, is that God said that's the only man I've ever listened to. But I did listen, and I stopped that son. He violated his own rules of laws of science. Now, was that a miracle? By definition, that's a miracle. He overrode his natural laws. But he's active. Oh, he's active. And we can all look back in our lives. We don't know at the time, do we? We can look back in our lives and say, ooh, boy, he got me out of a jam there. or he saved me here, or I'm glad I didn't marry her, or I'm glad this happened, or I'm glad that happened, or, you know, on and on and on. Or I'm glad I married her. I'm pretty quick on my feet. But it's wonderful stuff. It really is. Just, it really is. I wanted to, let's go to, be on the back page of yours. And this, the difference between miracles and providence, and I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but that's okay. Providence, God's utilization of the natural law to serve His purpose. God made the natural laws, and He has the ability and the right to override those when He chooses. And He has the ability and the right, because He's sovereign, as the first sermon said, to do what He wants to do, and He can do it naturally. He can do it naturally, but He's involved. Oh, He's involved. He's not in a rocking chair, sleeping, as Ryan Goodwin used to say, stroking his beard. He's not. Oh, He's active. He's active. And sometimes He uses indirect means, sometimes He uses direct means. But He accomplishes purpose through His providential care.
But Jesus said, my Father works and I must work. So he worked. We've got proof of it. Right, and, you know, right there, Jesus said it.
He did. He did. Look at, on page 2, or the back in your case, 3C. Now, I didn't write this, but I got this somewhere, but so it must be original. But I really like it. The notion of providence is founded upon this truth, that the Creator has not so fixed and ascertained the laws of nature, nor so connected the chain of second causes as to leave the world to itself, but He still has the reins.
Still has a what?
The reins. Just like
Still in control.
still in control.
In control.
And He's still got the reins, as it were, proverbially, metaphorically, but he can, just like you turn a horse, he can do what He wants. Has God ever used the weather in a miraculous sense? Yes. Has He? But I could even debate that a little bit. Remember when He got hailstones? Now, is hail a natural occurrence, a law that God set into play? Can He bring in that storm? Is that a miracle to bring in the storm, to kill all those people, those hailstones? I don't think so. Has God used a drought before? Yes. Are droughts a part of nature? The natural order of things? Yes. But can He cause a drought? Providentially? Oh, yes. Is that a miracle? No. But He caused it. And the Bible's filled with those things. Remember Elijah? He said, I prayed to God, and in 3.5 years there was not a drop of rain on the earth. He prayed again, and what happened? It rained.
How about the Red Sea?
Now that was a miracle. Normally oceans and seas don't stand up on their sides, and you walk across some dry ground.
And dry land.
So, but that's a good example. That's a miracle. The flood, that may be a little, we can talk about that, Mike, and we've only got 2 minutes left.
I have just a short statement, Matt.
Yeah, sure.
When you look at providence, and we study the Word, you see the providence of God. He knows in advance what's going to happen. So, He puts all things in play for this day, for these events. That tornado was coming. That woman was going to be in her bedroom praying. And we figure out what God knows.
That's right.
I'm not going to answer that question.
No, me either.
Job strived to answer that question.
Right.
And he couldn't answer God. But it's years. We look at things in our timeline. We see this in our timeline. God sees it over thousands of years and prepares it.
Has He used volcanoes in the past?
You pick something.
Yes. Has He used earthquakes in the past to get people's attention? Does He have the ability to use volcanoes and earthquakes today to get people's attention. California. Yes. Yes, he does. Yes, he. Maybe it was. Yes, he does. Will he? I don't know.
It just drives
Boat?
them over here.
It's a boat. I know. That's why we don't want them. We don't. That's above our pay grade. And we won't know till one day when. I got a feeling. You know how long I'm going to remember this world after we're on the other side? About 3 seconds. So I want to ask God about that. I doubt if He will. I doubt if I'm going to ask God about. I don't think so. We're not going to care about all that. We're going to walk around the first 5 seconds and go, whoa, this is cool. Yeah, we're not going to get into all that, I don't think. But it's interesting topic. Now, I got a lot more to go through on Wednesday night. But anyway, watch it online if you're not here.
When you look at natural disasters today, and we hear about them on the news, there's a lot of reverse engineering going on to figure out the causes leading up to it. And we can backtrack and quite often figure out how things developed to lead that storm in, how the winds are flowing to drive storms away, and reverse back to see what caused it. God knew that in advance. We cannot predict what's going to happen. We can figure out in some aspects what did, whereas He knows in advance. I think is the big thing about this whole thing. We don't understand that. Like I said Wednesday night, I don't understand how He made that water stand out to walk on.
Right.
He does.
And no doubt about that. That was a miracle. It's not, it violates every law to walk on water. Now, that's no question, that's a miracle. But for Him to bring up a cloud to Ahab and say, it had rained for 3.5 years, and he looks over there and says, there's a cloud coming, you better get to the palace, because it's going to be a doozy. That was not a miracle, but He providentially brought that cloud. Those clouds. See that? All right, thank you. I knew I'd get my stirred.